Your course is one of them that I would highly recommend, because it's at that young age that we really teach kids to understand themselves, to understand their strengths, to learn how to get along with others, to be effective problem solvers so that they could be those great future leaders. It's such a gift to be able to do that at a young age.
Welcome to another edition of KidLead Academy Training Series with Dr. Alan E. Nelson, designed to help parents develop their children to lead so they can succeed. And now, here's Alan.
Hey, I am stoked because today we're going to be interviewing Dr. Sandra Mashihi, and I have interacted with her for years. I've, in fact, invited her to guest lecture when I was teaching at USC Marshall School of Business, and recently she was a guest when I was teaching at the United States Naval Academy. So she is not only uber smart, but she's also a parent. Let me just give you a brief bio, and then we'll jump into some questions. So Sandra has a PhD in organizational psychology. She's an organizational psychologist. She's also an adjunct professor, teaches at schools such as Pepperdine Business School. She also is the founder of Spectra Coaching LLC. She has coached hundreds of executives, not only in the US, but literally around the world. And she's a co-author of Clueless, Coaching People Who Just Never Get It. I love that title. She also has a book coming out in 2025. We'll talk briefly about that. But probably more important than any of these is she is mom to two amazing children, soon to be adults and leaders. So that's why I'm pretty jazzed to talk to her about this. So Sandra, welcome. I'm glad you're here.
Thank you, Alan. It's my pleasure to be here. Thank you.
We can go a lot of different directions, but let's kind of start at your business expertise, your professional expertise, and then we'll kind of segue into leadership expert as mom, right, as parents. So how does that work? So what are some of the more common problems you've seen in coaching leaders over the last 20 years?
Yeah, common problems. So I've been doing this, like you said, 20 years, and I've seen all types of leaders. And, there's been a theme throughout different industries that I see globally. And regardless of the industry, what we see a lot of times is leaders that step into their role because that's the next level up, but they don't know anything about being a leader. So they're an individual contributor, next level up in their success of their careers to be a leader, but they don't know how to lead. And their idea of leadership is really about micromanaging and being transactional and making sure everyone gets the work done. But it's not really about engaging and getting people on board and collaborating and creating a sense of camaraderie. And that's so essential for leadership. Another common problem I see is people that are very good at what they do, they're highly competent, but they just don't have the interpersonal skills to get along with others. So leading without being able to get along with others is going to be an issue. You can't get ahead alone. You can be successful only to a certain point by yourself, but if you want to lead, you need others on board with you. So you have people like surgeons or engineers that are really brilliant at their technical craft, but they just don't know how to get along with others. They're either overly abrasive, overly direct, constant conflict. They don't know how to draw people in. They don't know how to influence. So that becomes a common theme I deal with. I like to call those individuals competent jerks. So there's quite a few of them, and I've coached quite a few of them throughout the course of my career.
I get that.
Yeah, and so those are some common issues. And then another common issue we see is a lot of people don't understand their potentials. They're not really tapped into their abilities. So they're kind of doing something in a mundane fashion, but they don't know what they're really good at. Are they good at data? Are they good at being creative? Are they good at being strategic? For instance, we work with a lot of people that have creative minds, but they're not meticulous on tasks. So they've been placed in the wrong position, and they didn't realize that this creative side can create so much innovation and strategy. And so every person has a different set of skills. And if they're not placed in the right position, they're not going to thrive. So that's another common problem that we see in the leadership world. A lot of
What?
people are in
Oh,
leadership
I'm sorry. Go
positions.
ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Keep
Yeah,
going.
a lot of people are in leadership positions, but they're not equipped with the right skills and awareness of themselves to be able to really thrive in what they're doing.
All right. So the question that begs to be asked, right? And you and I know each other from really working from these professionals who are working on advanced degrees, MBAs, master's, graduate degrees, but
Mhm.
they're real world leaders. So I can appreciate that. But now thinking in terms of the future, which of these, how should I say this? Which of these problems do you think can be addressed by teaching the skills early to future leaders so that we can put you out of business in terms of what they're going to need when they become adults?
Yeah.
Is it possible? Is it plausible? And if so, talk to us a little bit about that.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of the times when I coach these leaders, I see them in habits that are so hard to change because they've just been ingrained from childhood. And you're coaching someone at 40 and expecting them to change is a lot more difficult than coaching someone at 5 or 6 or 7 where their minds are like sponges
Yeah.
and they can change so much easier. I mean, literally on a neuroplasticity level, it's completely different when you're comparing a child versus an adult at that age. And one thing we know about coaching is that getting people to change is really difficult. So a lot of times in my coaching practice, and I before I get into a conversation with a client, I say, look, we have to be realistic about the magnitude of change. And a lot of people change because they're really motivated, but there's a set limit to how much they could change. And I always say it, I'm like, if only, we could have helped these people when they were kids, or if their parents could have helped them, or if their community could have helped them. Wow, they could have achieved so much more than they currently are. So there's something to be said about really coaching people from a young age where their minds are young and they can absorb all the information and they could learn about themselves, what their strengths are, what their personality is like, how they manage stress, how they regulate emotions. These are all core principles around how to be an effective leader. And so I think it's so crucial. And one of the things I was drawn to your course was that you and I always talk about this. If kids can learn leadership at such a young age, it'll make it so much easier when they get into the real world out there. And especially these days with AI taking over, you have to be so much more resourceful, you have to be so much more aware, and you have to use your community and the people around you, and you can't do it alone. You have to be able to get along with others.
Great points. Great points. So, as we segue and talk about future leaders, tell us about your future leaders. Tell us a little bit about your kids, their interests at this point of the recording, their ages, kind of where are they at?
I have two little ones, Jaden, who's almost 4, and my daughter Joelle, who's 2.5, and they are completely different individuals. Jaden is rambunctious, energetic, extremely strong-willed, and then you have Joelle, she can be defiant at times, but her nature is so nurturing. She loves animals and dolls, and she just loves to take care. And you see those two differences, and it just makes you realize, wow, I have a similar parenting style with both kids, but they're just so different, and which takes us back to understanding leaders. It's like when you see two different individuals with such different strengths, it's how do we help them thrive with those sets of skills? But they are so fun. Jaden he loves Spider-Man and superheroes. And it's so reflective of his personality because he loves to save the day. Like if he sees two kids playing in a way that's not correct, he'll step in the middle and he'll say, no, that's not the right way of doing it. You know, you
Wow.
already see that at such a young age. And then Joelle is all about just nurturing, taking care. Yeah, they are so fun.
Isn't that funny? Same gene pool, right? Same gene pool.
Gene pool.
So what happened is that Sandra and I hadn't been in touch for a while. COVID had happened, years had passed.
Mhm.
And so when she contacted me, she was interested in the course, right? Interested in my Kid Leads, the KidLead Academy course. And so I hadn't heard it from her for years, and I had no idea she'd had kids, right? So I was excited about that, and I was also intrigued that as an overachiever, she, being a leadership expert, says, I want to get a jump on it in terms of developing my kids, So right now they're 2 and 4. So talk to us a little bit about, if you're willing to, you're involved in the course, it's the online course. What are some of the things you're seeing now as a leadership expert, but also as a mom, as a parent?
Yeah. It's interesting you say that. There is so much overlap between, just talking about leadership, the phenomenon of leadership, and what I coach my leaders with, and then what I have to do as a parent. And and it's interesting we say that because they did a study and they found that moms that are highly conscientious have that conscientiousness overplays with the world of work. So if they're conscientious as a mom, they're also conscientious in work. So there's a correlation with a level of success. And yeah, being a parent is all about feedback, reinforcement, tuning in, right? Understanding, incentivizing, influencing, soliciting alignment. It's all those skills that I coach my clients to achieve with their team. And when you're a parent, you're invested in it on a whole different level because it's part of you. They're my kids. So when I see they do something wrong, or when I see they can't regulate their emotion because they're still in that toddler stage, I have to be the example and I have to be a leader myself and be regulated so that I can help them regulate. So a lot of, what I'm seeing is in order to be a leader, you really have to be first and foremost self-aware. Understand yourself. Be a role model. And sometimes the best way to communicate is your understanding of yourself. And I'm really seeing that as I'm raising 2 kids, sometimes they don't understand me when I tell them, well, this is the right way of communicating, and this is what you say. Or when you see someone this morning, I was taking Jaden to school, and we were in an elevator with a lot of the moms, and I've always taught him to say hello when you see a mom. So this morning I don't know, he said something like, oh, I don't want to say hi. I want to play with my Spider-Man figure. And instead of, jumping in to correct him, I'm like, you know what, let's regulate, let's teach him in a feed forward way. What's a better way of saying it? But then let him be. And a lot of times with leadership, we have to do that as well. They have a state that they're in. Our team members, we have to tune in, understand them, and then we can give feed forward as opposed to criticizing. So, and that delves us into the next topic around feedback, which is the premise of my book, which I'd love to share with you in a moment.
Right. And I definitely want to hear more about that. Talk to us a little bit more, because I'm sensing that probably, I mean, you have such, great insights and experience, and you're able to articulate this, but you have a PhD in the field of leadership and organizational development. And if someone's listening or watching us and they're saying, well, yeah, I don't have a PhD in leadership, I'm not a leader, how can I still teach my kids some of these skills? What encouragement would you give to parents who maybe feel a little bit different from you in terms of your expertise at developing young leaders?
Yeah, I would suggest parents, I mean, well, one of the means obviously is your wonderful course out there, which I love, which breaks down the modules so effectively around what leadership means, what are the skills entailed. It's so clear and it's so easy to understand. I love the course for that reason. So this is one avenue, but if parents can get involved with really trying to learn about themselves, have self-awareness, and then take on the skills to be able to lead other, their own kids, that would be great. It's a learning process. Leadership doesn't always come naturally to us. And this is what I share with the clients, I coach as well. We sometimes feel like when we step into a parenting role, it's something that comes naturally to us. Or if we are an individual contributor, the next level up will lead naturally. It doesn't always happen that way. So if we can take on resources, there's amazing resources out there. Your course is one of them that I would highly recommend, because it's at that young age that we really teach kids to understand themselves, to understand their strengths, to learn how to get along with others, to be effective problem solvers so that they could be those great future leaders. It's such a gift to be able to do that at a young age.
It is, isn't it? And when you think of the trajectory, giving them such a huge head start, which for me at midlife, it was this light bulb that went off. And I said, why are we investing so many resources when the ROI is so low, when we could be, front loading our leaders to be effective and ethical? So it's so wonderful to hear that from you. Tell us now about this new book that's coming out. And then I want you to talk about how people who are hearing this can find out more about you and your work.
Okay, sure. This is the second book I wrote with a close colleague of mine, and the book is all about feedback. So, and feedback, the way I define it, is a broad set of communication strategies that we deploy with the different people we lead. And so leadership is not a one size fits all approach. And I've shared that with you. I have Jaden, I have Joelle, two different people. I have to tailor my feedback according to their different styles. The same thing with parenting, same thing goes with leading the team. And so the book is all about how to give appropriate feedback that's tailored to the different types of employees you have. And it's based on a model that I came up with, a colleague of mine, and it's based on two scales, which is interpersonal skills. So what are the interpersonal skills of the person? And then what is their performance like? And so based on these two scales, we categorize people in different quadrants. And based on those different quadrants, we have a whole different set of strategies and recommendations and suggestions of what they could do to really be an effective leader. Like I said, there is no one size fits all approach. So you really, really want to make sure that when you lead, your feedback is tailored and you're building on each individual based on their signature strengths, their drivers, what motivates them, what their personality is like, and we also have to understand what are their setbacks, what are the things they're not so good at. Sometimes we spend so much time trying to correct weaknesses. And I don't know if that's time worthwhile, not for leading and not for parenting. It's like, why don't we just spend more time and enhancing and developing and nurturing those strengths that people have? And so the book is all about that. It's evidence-based, and we went through so much research studies to really get into the details around how to tailor your leadership approach and give feedback in a way where we solicit alignment. We go into the neuroscience of, how our brains work and how we receive information, and how when we give feedback in different ways, we can really help connect to others. So I'm very excited. And when I was writing it this time around, I had my two kids. And it was so nice to come from a perspective, not only of a coach, but also a parent that gives feedback every day, so I'm really, really excited about that.
That is exciting. Tell us the title And when it comes out, we'll make sure that we put a picture of the book cover, and how to contact you, as well as buy the book, in our show notes. But for now, what's the title of it? And then also tell us how to contact you. How do we get in touch with you, Sandra?
Sure, absolutely. It's called Performance Feedback Strategies for Leaders, and it's published in partnership with the Association of Training and Development. And you can contact me. I have my website is spectracoaching.com. And, there's a link to the book. You can purchase it there. And yeah, there's contact information on there if you want to reach out. And yeah, I'd love to share a copy. And for anyone interested in my insights as a coach and mom, I'd love to be there for you.
That's great. So again, we'll have all of those in the show notes, and on the video, you'll be able to see the information scrolling below. Any last minute thoughts? Something that maybe I didn't bring up, or something that you said, oh my gosh, I should have said this, of a way of encouraging parents in terms of what you've learned about working with adult leaders, or just what you're learning as a parent yourself in terms of leadership development?
Yeah, just, parents, we're in this journey with our kids in a new era where, social media has taken over and AI has taken over, and the world has changed. So what worked for us when we were raised is totally different than what we need to do with the new generation. So I really encourage, parents, and I'm in this journey myself, to really take on, understanding their kids, tuning into them, developing leaders, because they're our future. And if we don't, there could be, consequences. The world of work is changing so much. So we really need to keep them prepared, resilient, problem solvers, collaborators. We want to encourage that level of empathy and emotional intelligence to be able to tune into the kids and let their feelings be and understand what they're going through. And with that self-awareness and that acknowledgement, we're allowing kids to grow in a way where they can be themselves. And so we really, really want to foster that. And I really encourage it. And good luck to all the parents out there with their endeavors of their kids. Yeah.
Sandra, thank you so much for sharing this time with us and with our listeners and viewers. And again, the information of contacting her will be in the show notes. And I'm excited to follow up maybe in a few years and say, how's it going, right? And you'll be having a lot of stories and a lot of episodes.